Bombshell. Alex Eala just revealed who's really been paying for everything, and the WTA is on the spot. The 21-year-old Filipina tennis sensation has been making headlines with her historic Wimbledon run and first WTA title in Washington. But behind the glory lies a story that exposes the brutal economics of professional tennis. While other players enjoy federation funding and national support, Eala has been navigating a fragmented, self-funded path, and now she's finally speaking out. What she said about managing her own expenses has put the entire system on notice. Nobody expected her to say it so plainly. In a press conference that was supposed to celebrate her historic Wimbledon run, Alex Eala dropped a truth bomb that exposed the uncomfortable reality of professional tennis, even for the sport's rising stars. The 21-year-old Filipina had just become the first player from her country to reach the fourth round of Wimbledon, pocketing £300,000, approximately $24.6 million, in prize money. Just weeks later, she'd capture her first WTA title in Washington, adding another $252,000 to her bank account. By August 2026, her season earnings had surpassed $1.5 million, making her one of the highest-earning Filipino athletes in history. But when the cameras rolled and microphones were shoved in her face, Eala didn't talk about buying cars, investing in real estate, or splurging on designer goods. Instead, she revealed something far more revealing. Well, my first big investment in general, not just with my earnings from Wimbledon, but my earnings in general, I invest in my future. So I save a lot of money, Eala said during a press conference in mid-July. Her next words stopped everyone cold. I like to be cautious with my money. I'm still so young, so I am so lucky and blessed to be under the guidance of my parents and my family at BPI to learn to manage that well. Did you catch that? A top 20 player in the world, coming off the biggest payday of her career, still relying on her parents for financial guidance, still treating every dollar like it might be her last, still managing money like a player who doesn't know when the next big check is coming. Why would a player of her caliber be so cautious? Why isn't the system supporting her? Why does a Wimbledon quarterfinalist have to think twice before spending? Here's the answer that changes everything, and it goes back to a controversy that erupted years ago. To understand why Alex Eala's financial independence is so significant, you have to go back to 2020. She was just 15 years old, fresh off a historic semifinal run at the French Open Juniors. The first Filipina to reach that stage in a Grand Slam. The country was celebrating. And then, the Philippine Sports Commission decided to take some credit. On October 10, 2020, the PSC posted on their official Facebook page a congratulatory message for the young tennis star. But it wasn't just a simple tribute. The post claimed that the government agency had backed Eala with PHP $3 million for travel expenses on top of another PHP $1.5 million for 6 international tournaments since January. In total, they boasted of $4.5 million in financial support. It sounded like the government was doing its job, supporting a young athlete on the rise. There was just one problem. It was a complete fabrication. Michael Eala, Alex's father, took to social media with a response that cut through the bureaucracy like a knife. In the wake of a great run of Alex at Roland Garros, the French Open, it is sad to see that agencies claim to support athletes with millions of pesos, in spite of not having given a single centavo, he wrote. His words were measured, but devastating. The Eala family had been funding everything themselves, and now they were being publicly used for political optics. Riza Eala, Alex's mother, a former national athlete herself, was even more detailed in her rebuttal. For the record, we have not received any of the funds in the millions of pesos mentioned here in this post, she declared. She revealed that they had been trying to reimburse Alex's travel expenses for the Australian Open from January of that year, but were being given a runaround at the PSC. I kid you not, our documentation is 2 inches thick with receipts, boarding passes, etc., she wrote. But we are asked to submit more and wait for different people to report for work. The post sparked outrage. Here was a teenage athlete carrying the Philippine flag across the world at her family's personal expense. while a government agency claimed credit for support that never materialized. The Ealas weren't asking for handouts. They were asking for the truth. The PSC quickly issued an apology, calling their original statement unintended misinformation. The agency admitted that while a board resolution had been approved, the funding was still being processed and awaiting required documents. The Facebook post was deleted, but the damage was done. The controversy forced the Senate to take notice. A resolution was filed directing an inquiry to evaluate the support provided by the PSC to the country's athletes, coaches, and trainers. The resolution specifically cited the Eala case as evidence of lack of immediacy in government assistance and questioned whether other athletes had been similarly affected. Despite the apology, the Eala family made a decision that speaks volumes about their dignity and independence. When the PSC offered to fast-track the assistance, Michael Eala refused. "They can give that financial assistance to other athletes who badly need it," he told media. "We've come this far without them anyway." 6 years later, in 2026, the question still lingers. Publicly available budget records from the Philippine government do not specify how much funding has been released to the Philippine Tennis Association or directly to individual athletes like Eala. The national budget allocates P1.3 billion to sports development, but tennis does not have a separate line item. The transparency simply isn't there. The same government officials who once claimed credit for Eala's rise are now the same ones congratulating her Wimbledon success, without ever accounting for what they actually contributed. The PSC has since worked to rebuild relations, with chairperson Patrick Gregorio sharing that Michael Eala congratulated him on hosting the inaugural Philippine Women's Open in 2026. But gestures don't erase history. The Eala family's journey exposes a system where athletes from countries without robust tennis federations must sink or swim on their own. It raises a critical question for every Filipino athlete watching. If the government doesn't support their champions when they're rising, what happens when they fall? Here's a number that will shock you. A top 50 tennis player can spend anywhere from $100,000 to $2 million per year just to stay competitive. Travel, coaching, physiotherapy, nutrition, racket stringing, accommodation, it all adds up. And for players from countries without robust tennis federations, every single peso comes out of their own pocket or their family's savings. Let's break it down. Travel alone at the higher levels of professional tennis can cost anywhere from $50,000 to $150,000 per year. Coming from the Philippines makes this challenge even more difficult. Eala isn't flying from New York to London. She's flying from Manila to Melbourne to Miami to Paris to Wimbledon. A logistical nightmare that eats into her prize money before she even steps on court. Coaching? A typical coach can cost another $50,000 per year, plus performance bonuses that come directly out of the player's earnings. Racket stringing and customization? That's anywhere from $5,000 to $40,000 annually just to ensure her equipment is in top playing condition. Add food, accommodation, physiotherapy, and miscellaneous expenses, and you're looking at a financial mountain that would crush most aspiring athletes. To put this in perspective, consider this. A Filipina tennis star reportedly earning around a P19 million from a tournament run might cover her team's expenses for a year at most. Eala is blessed to have the support of sponsors like BPI, Globe, and Nike, but sponsorship doesn't cover everything. Prize money must fill the gaps. Now compare Eala's situation to top players from countries with established tennis federations. Chinese star Zheng Qinwen reportedly spends around 15 to 18 million RMB annually on her 6-person team, roughly $2 to $2.5 million per year. Her main coach alone commands 2 to 3 million RMB annually. Her daily expenses approach 35,000 to 40,000 RMB, and even she has to scrape together WTA 250 event prize money to stay afloat. But there's a structural difference. Zheng's team is funded through a combination of prize money, endorsements, and, crucially, support from her National Tennis Association. Chinese players reportedly pay 11% of their prize money to their federation in exchange for coaching, training, and competition support. That arrangement keeps them afloat during lean years. When Zhengxing's tournament earnings dropped from $520,000 to $190,000 in one season, she still had a safety net. Alex Eala has no such guarantee. The Philippine government allocates P1.3 billion to sports development. But the national budget does not contain a separate line item for tennis. Transparency reports do not specify how much funding has been released to the Philippine Tennis Association or directly to individual athletes like Eala. So Eala is left to navigate the brutal economics of professional tennis alone. She earns more now, $1.5 million in prize money for 2026, plus her WTA title in Washington. But how much of that is profit after all the expenses? How much has she already had to spend to reach this level? Her family has been paying for her training at the Rafa Nadal Academy since she was 13. They've been funding her international travel since before she turned pro. They've been navigating bureaucratic red tape just to get reimbursed for expenses the government promised to cover. And even now, with world ranking 20 and a Wimbledon round of 16 payday of P24.3 million, Eala's careful, measured approach to money makes perfect sense. She knows that a single injury, a single bad season, could wipe out everything she's built. And she knows she can't count on anyone to catch her if she falls. Despite the financial uncertainty, despite the government's broken promises, despite every obstacle placed in her path, Alex Eala kept rising. And by August 2026, she had done something that no one could have predicted. The numbers are staggering. In a single season, Eala has defeated 9 top 10 players. Not just 1 or 2, 9. She has beaten Elena Rybakina, the world number 2, in Berlin. She has toppled Iga Swiatek, a 6-time Grand Slam champion at Wimbledon. She has dismantled Naomi Osaka, a 4-time major winner in Washington. And in her crowning moment, she came back from a set down to destroy world no. 3 Jessica Pegula 4-6, 6-4, 6-0 in the DC Open final. Let that sink in. She became the first player since Barbora Krejcikova at Dubai in 2023 to defeat the top 3 seeds en route to a WTA title. Every opponent she faced in Washington was either a major champion, a Grand Slam finalist, or a current top 10 player. Zheng Xinwen, Leylah Fernandez, Elina Svitolina, Naomi Osaka, Jessica Pegula. 5 world-class names, 1 Filipina tennis player, 1 trophy. By August 3, 2026, Eala had climbed to a career-high world number 20. She had accumulated $1,537,030 in prize money for the season, over P94 million. At Wimbledon, she took home $300,000, approximately $396,100, for reaching the round of 16. In Washington, she earned $252,000. The money was finally coming in. But here's the part that makes this story truly remarkable. Eala didn't just win, she avenged her defeats. She had lost to Zheng in the 2022 Asian Games semifinals. She had been clobbered by Fernandez in Stuttgart. She had fallen short against Pegula in the 2025 Miami Open semifinals. In Washington, she beat all 3. Her coach, Joan Bosch, has watched this transformation up close. In an interview just days before the 2026 US Open, Bosch said something that reveals the depth of Eala's character. To win 5-6 matches in a row against top 10 players, then against Zheng Xinwen, Leylah Fernandez, and Jessica Pegula, maybe I would say, I wish. But yes, I knew that she could be in the top 20, he told ABS-CBN. But then he added this, a statement that captures the philosophy that has carried Eala through every challenge. Ranking for sure is important when you have a career of 10 years, but we will know if the top 20 ranking is good or not now. The goal is to be better. This is the mentality of someone who has never had a safety net. Someone who had to leave home at 13 to train at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Spain. Someone who has had to treat every match like a business transaction because losing means more than just disappointment. It means a financial hit. And her performances speak for themselves. Eala has a 9-4 career record against top 10 players. She has won her last 5 matches against the world's elite. Hall of Fame coach Rick Matchie, who has worked with 5 players who reached world number 1, has predicted that Eala will be in the top 5 by the end of the year. Now she heads into her second US Open main draw, not as an unseeded wildcard, but as a top 20 player. Last year, she made history by becoming the first Filipina to win a U.S. Open main draw match. This year, she is aiming for something far greater. The rise has been breathtaking. The financial challenges are still there. But what Eala has proven is that when you have nothing to fall back on, you have no choice but to climb higher. So where does Alex Eala go from here? The answer might determine not just her legacy, but the future of Philippine sports itself. As of August 2026, Eala is preparing for the U.S. Open, where she is guaranteed $140,000, approximately P8.6 million, simply for appearing in the main draw. If she reaches the second round, that jumps to $190,000, or roughly P11.7 million. She's also entered the mixed doubles event alongside star Felix Auger Aliason. The family said they received not a single centavo. The PSC apologized for unintended misinformation. And the documents? Still buried somewhere in bureaucracy. But here's what's changed. Eala no longer needs them. She has earned over $1.5 million in prize money this year alone. More than P93 million. She has sponsorship deals with BPI, Globe, and Nike. She has proven that talent, discipline, and family support can overcome institutional failure. Her father's words from 2020 now ring prophetic. We've come this far without them anyway. Yet her success raises an uncomfortable question for every young Filipino athlete watching from home. What if your family doesn't have the resources? What if you can't afford the Rafa Nadal Academy? What if you don't have parents who can fund your international tournaments? The system hasn't changed. Eala just found a way around it. In a press conference in Toronto after her ankle injury at the Canadian Open, Eala was asked about the ongoing questions regarding government support. She didn't take the bait. Instead, she offered a response that revealed the maturity of someone who has learned to navigate a system that has failed her. I'm grateful for all the support I've received from my family, my sponsors, and my fans. That's what keeps me going, she said. It was diplomatic. It was gracious. And it was a pointed reminder that the people who actually supported her were never in government. Now, as she heads into the U.S. Open as a top 20 player, the narrative